Well, welcome to the live stage here at Wichita Falls Ranch Farm and Hemp Expo 2021 edition. My name is Jared Slagle here at the live stage, brought to you by American Hat Company, Fenolio Boots. It's day number 1, and here we are with our first round of speakers, and it's all about the hemp right now. That's where we're headed to. And a couple of the experts, we like to call them experts, and that's what they get to be. 2 years we've been having hemp, and we've added to it. And these folks are going to be talking about just kind of about the hemp business. We're going to go into a lot of different things. You can pull it apart, Justin. It doesn't matter. It's going to go there. So 2 different people that we have here. Justin Harris with Wild Ass Hemp. He's an actual grower and part of that. And then as well as with Texas Hemp and kind of the Growers Association to give us all sorts of information is Tillery Timmons Sims, TTS. That's right. Okay. Well, let's just start out first. Justin, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what all you have to do with the hemp industry?
Okay, so I'm Justin Harris, and I'm from McCook, Nebraska. We're from the southwest corner of the state, and it's about a 9-hour, really fast haul down here, is where we're at. And this is Jax, my son, and Gemma, my daughter. They're 10 years old. And the whole family's down here to kind of soak up some Texas sun and some Texas heat now that they turned the heat back on in Texas. So, yeah. And so anyway, so we, our background is, my background is, I've got a bachelor's degree in agronomy from the University of Nebraska, worked as an agronomist for a while, and decided I wanted to take that background and start my own business. And I chose the lawn care business, the lawn care landscaping business. So that's what we've been doing this is our 20th year now that we've been doing that. And the CBD kind of came our way several years ago. Actually, when Colorado legalized marijuana is basically when I started getting really interested in cannabinoids, specifically CBD and things that the hemp plant can do for a human or any mammal, that is. And so it got pretty exciting, with the 2018 Farm Bill, where we could finally start to use CBD products for ourselves. And most of the people in our family, our extended family, have benefited from CBD products, CBD derivatives, hemp derivatives. So last year, about a year and a half ago, when it looked like it was, Nebraska in 2019 was in their experimental program stage where they granted 10 licenses via lottery system, and that's when we kind of started getting excited, because we've got an acreage out in the country where we live and operate our business out of that I thought would be a really good place to grow hemp, and just to kind of bring something to southwest Nebraska. So, we're from a town of about 7,800 people. We're the biggest town in, many, many counties. We're the biggest town for 70 miles in most directions. Biggest town in hundreds of miles for other directions. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to bring hemp to southwest Nebraska. I was kind of fascinated with the plant, the things that were possible with the plant. And so the program rolled out for us last year, a little over a year ago, right at the point when the hemp industry was changing drastically, because states were coming on all over the country. The hemp biomass was flooding the market, the prices were crashing, corporations were consolidating by the minute. Everything, it was like the Wild Wild West on steroids in a drunken party, for several months, trying to figure out what we're going to do. So what we ended up doing was deciding that we would not only be cultivators, that we would also be processors, extractors, and using our talents, I guess, in the business world, within our customer base and our being leaders in our community. We would take the hemp plant from farm to table, basically. So we kind of created this model, not that we created a model, but we kind of fashioned this model that we would grow, cultivate, extract, process, retail package, and we've got brought some of our little store with us today. So we've got a CBD store in McCook, and it's the only CBD store in southwest Nebraska. There's a couple other places that sell some CBD products, but we're trying to be a full-scale CBD store. We will offer everything. We've got a flower bar, we've got Delta 8 products, we've got locally made gummies. The gummies are terrific. So David that was at the McCook show with us, they're now producing gummies locally. So we've got full spectrum CBD gummies, we've got Delta 8 gummies, and so our CBD store will have it all. We've got kombucha tea coming in a couple of weeks that I'm really excited about. We've got water soluble drink packets coming, in addition to what we've already got, the flower bar. We've got all of our topicals, full spec, broad spec. We've got tincture oil. What am I missing? Swag. And we've got some CBD soap. So we also make soap. That was kind of an accidental business that happened all at the same time, making our soap, our wild ass soap. And so yeah, we've got some CBD bars too. So that's where we're at right now. And we've got our licenses in place for this year again. And this year we're finally going to be getting into our own extractions. We've been using some partners out in Colorado. Some of the other guys that have shared these couches that we're getting our distillates and things like that from. So this year's the year that we start our own extractions. We're going to do cold ethanol extractions because it's very small scale for us, and we're not looking to scale up. We're just going to remain kind of right where we're at.
So Justin Harris with Wild Ass Hemp, part of McCook, Nebraska, came here to Texas to talk to some of the folks. Fully integrated business, and now we have Tillery Timmons Sims with us, and you're from out in the west part of Texas. Tell us about your operation. What do you have going on?
Okay, so I'm a fourth generation Texas farm girl. Grew up on a cotton farm and still have our own farm. And we also do on the side mineral management, so oil and mineral management. And because of an ag background, I often do surface management for absentee landlords, and that's how I was introduced to hemp in 2019. Early in that year, I got a call about doing some research to see if a landowner could grow hemp on their land in Terry County, up kind of in the Panhandle. So I started doing the agronomic research, and then I began to do market research and quickly realized that we could actually maybe looking at a rotational crop option for food and fiber. I had minimal interest in CBD because of the way the markets were looking, and so I was more interested in, is this a plant that is truly drought tolerant? Is it something that we could grow for food and fiber? So I connected with some farm friends that I knew around the state, and together we created the Texas Hemp Growers Association. So there's several groups across the state. To recognize ours, you look for the yellow tractor. So we have a tractor, our logo is a tractor. And we wanted to have an avenue for farmers to be able to get accurate information, for us to coordinate seed trials, for us to have communication across the state, and to do some due diligence on the folks that were coming into the state. And that's really why we got started early in the process. All of us have worked in other commodity industries like peanuts and grapes, sesame, those kind of things. And all of our board members are on the board of those other commodity trade associations. So we have a lot of experience growing industries. And we wanted to be able to combine that at the beginning of this process, because really where we are in hemp in Texas is where we were in cotton about 100 years ago. And the difference is that we do have a lot of modern technology now that can help speed up the process. The things that we were, innovating on in cotton, we can take all those processes now and apply them to hemp. So that's kind of where we are. We keep an eye on who's coming and going through the state. We try to keep up with the growers, and we across the state we had about 1,200 people apply for license. On the federal and on the state side, our regulations require a hemp farmer to certify their acreage at the FSA office. 40 licensed growers did that this year. So there were about 5,000 acres that were applied for a plot license, and probably about 2,200 acres is what was actually turned into to FSA. And of those acres, most of those farmers are connected with us in some way, and most of them did not, in fact, grow all that they reported. So most are just trying just to see if it worked. We grew coordinated acres, 800 acres around Lubbock that did well. We grew one genetic from Colorado, and we grew that one genetic for 3 commodities: food, fiber, and for CBD. So, and we also have a processor now in Slayton, and we'll be processing for hemp, for fiber by the end of April.
Very interesting, the fiber side. And for folks maybe out here or following along at home, lots of uses for hemp. We've talked about, it's an extreme amount. It started, really, the money big time was in the CBD. That's where the oil started. Now as we're seeing the fiber market become something in the United States, it's not new. It used to be back many times in history that we had fiber and those type of things. So kind of recapping that, 2,200 acres roughly is what Texas is kind of putting in this first year. How important is it for those growers to learn about this? Because this is a different, and I'm going to pick on Justin maybe, this is a different plant than just putting in cotton or wheat, or there's a learning curve, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a learning curve with every crop, and you know, Taylor, it sounds like in Texas, I mean, obviously Texas sounds much more diverse than Nebraska. I mean, and Nebraska's diverse too, as you cross the state. In our area, basically all we're growing is corn, wheat, and soybeans, and we really don't even grow that much wheat anymore. There's far more wheat coming down here than there is in southwest Nebraska these days. You know, you get up into the Panhandle, well, even extreme southwest Nebraska, we've got potatoes and sugar beets. We get into the Panhandle, there's more sugar beets up there. You know, we used to grow a lot of sunflowers, and we don't really grow a lot of sunflowers anymore. So that's one of the things, you know, and I'm not in any kind of a position, obviously, where I'm working with growers, and I'm not part of an association, but I am just overwhelmingly enthusiastic about the hemp crop itself. And not just because of CBD. CBD was just a very easy way to start promoting a crop. Well, part of what makes Wild Ass so good is we've been using hemp seed oil in it since the beginning. And there's another dumb thing that I kind of just stumbled into these dumb things on accident. We started using hemp seed oil in our hot process soap at the end stages to make it very luxurious for your skin and very moisturizing for your skin. Just as a way to say, look, here's just one of the things that we can do with a hemp crop. And it turns out it made the soap really, really good. You know, I didn't come down here thinking that we were going to be like, you know, drawing people in the door, you know, look at this Wild Ass soap. In our town, we kind of do. Like everywhere we go, people follow us and just, they got to have this soap. But I wanted to come down here and just kind of, you know, maybe plant a few seeds along the way and talk about some of the stuff we have. But I mean, I'm kind of excited about hemp, not because of just CBD, but because of all the things that we can do. And right now, I don't believe that there's any hemp for grain or fiber really going on in Nebraska right now. David, my fellow associate at Halcyon, we actually did a little bromantic trip to Colorado last week. We never stopped talking the whole way. It was the fastest trip to Colorado ever. Dave and I, we talked hemp for 15 hours. And so we went out to get some hemp. I went out to pick up some hemp seed oil and some hemp hearts from a processor in Longmont called Colorado Hemp Works. And this is awesome. Yeah, so most of their grain has been coming from Minnesota, Canada, Montana. Very little of it's actually been coming from Colorado because there isn't a lot of grain produced in Colorado. And so I didn't have a chance to meet Matt, the owner. He was supposed to come up and talk to us, but he ended up having a meeting. So we talked to Joe that runs his production facility. We were interested in, you know, I think we got to see more than what maybe Matt wanted us to see, because I really wanted to stop and see what they were doing there. So I was genuinely interested in seeing what they did and how they can grow and maybe how we can form partnerships in Nebraska with a little company like that. Turns out Matt is a guy like me, maybe with a little bit more money, and he dumped his life savings into this seed processing. So Joe did let us know that there is now a fiber processor going into the old facilities that left behind by Cabela's in Sidney, Nebraska. And what we were finding out with the hemp fiber, and I'm very, very high on hemp hearts, and we can talk about that in a little bit, as far as being a superfood and what we can do with the hemp seed, because the hemp seed is technically a nut. And the hemp hearts are super, super gosh dang good to eat. I absolutely love eating them. I brought back 100 pounds of natural hemp hearts, and we've been roasting them and seasoning them with a guy in McCook. He's my spice guy. He's got a little business. He's got a website. He makes competition barbecue rubs for competition guys, but he's also got his own spice recipes that he makes, Mac Daddy's Original Spices. So what we've actually done is we've roasted those hemp hearts and seasoned them with these spices, and they're absolutely to die for. Snacks, I mean, I just eat it right out of the bag. It's like eating seasoned sunflower seeds, only better. Food toppings, smoothies, all kinds of things. But anyway, that's what I would like to see in our state. You know, we need more farm diversification. We need to plant less corn acres for sure. The rootworm, I got out of the seed business and the agronomy business right after the rootworm stack traits were coming out. You know, I think I maybe had 2 years into that, and then I left that business. I just wasn't totally excited by it anymore. But as it turns out in Nebraska, I don't know if Texas is suffering through rootworms, but apparently the rootworm traits in the corn didn't really hold up as well as the corn borer traits did, and they can't control the rootworm now. And so we're right back to, we got into such a rut, in Nebraska we just grow corn. It seems like corn on corn on corn on corn. There's places that have grown corn on corn for 100 years. And, they thought we had the rootworms licked, and it turns out we didn't. And now we're back to, we can't control the rootworms. And so, we really need to plant less corn acres, and I see hemp as something that can fill that. And the seed is going to have to, we're going to have to get more consumer demand. And that's what I'm trying to do as a grower. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just in a very, very, very small part, be part of the driving force of consumer demand. Show everybody what we can do with the seed. We can squeeze the oil out of the seed and use it in just a multitude of products, one of which is natural soap. Makes soap so good. One of it is the hemp hearts. We can incorporate hemp hearts into our diets. The omega-3 and 6 fatty acids contained in, it's a 3-to-1 ratio, which is a very healthy ratio compared to what we normally get. If humans even do get, people that eat so many processed foods, if you even do get omega-3 and 6 fatty acids in your diet, because you have to take those, the body does not make those, you need them. And the hemp hearts have so much in them that we need in our diet. And so we need that diversification. So that's the thing that excites me. But what we heard, as far as the fiber goes, that a lot of it's going into livestock bedding and like roadside reclamation. Instead of using wheat straw, I guess they're formulating some of the hemp fibers. That's kind of where the market's going right now, from what we've been told by the seed processors. And but that doesn't have to be the end of it. Obviously we've got hemp bioplastics. And I forgot to bring it with me. I've got a product that we're going to be selling this summer it's a product that's made up in upstate New York, of all places. Apparently there's hemp growers up in upstate New York that they are turning their fiber into bioplastic, and it's a koozie. You can put every size of beverage in there, and it's got a lock and load lid on it. It's a little spring in the bottom, and the outside barrel is made out of hemp bioplastic. And the guy actually wants to do a partnership with us, clear out Nebraska. He wants me to make him some exclusive bars of soap for his recoil company, and then he's going to sell the recoil this summer with the soap, so you can have a shower beer paired with our soap, and then we're going to sell the recoils when at our store here, and then any shows that we go to. I regret that I didn't have that in place before we came here, because we'd love to sell them here, get them out in front of people to see this is what hemp can be. Yeah.
So, Larry, let's go back to the Texas part. So, have we had a full year with Texas, or is this the first year we're putting her in the ground?
We had 2020 was our first year.
How did things? What were some of the exciting things that happened, and maybe some things that were maybe learned throughout the year?
Right. So we learned that we don't have the genetics. Our Colorado genetic did really well. We did do trials. They were late. We did get them planted in May, and some of those are going into the ground right now. So the problem that we have with hemp where we are down south is there's just not a lot of genetics across the globe at our latitude. And so when you're having to bring those genetics down south, hemp is a daylight crop. And so when you're talking about growing for grain and those kind of things, we need to have the longer day length in order to really be able to grow. And so we have some challenges, and we've said from the beginning we support hemp if it supports the farmer, and we're trying to see if that can happen. And so, you know, the problem that we have with genetics in a lot of our other commodities, we have that germplasm bank that researchers can pull from when they need to breed certain characteristics into plants, and that is not readily available. The land races are not readily available to breeders, and so finding those drought-tolerant varieties will be a challenge. And so everybody, I think if you farm, you know that you start with the genetics. What we found was that it's just a plant, and you put the seed in the ground, and guess what? The seed comes up, and that is if you have good genetics. So we did see some folks that, you know, a couple of folks, more than a couple, that got, you know, into business with some folks that sold them some bad seed, and that had one was probably less than 10% germination across about 130 acres, and so, you know, those were unfortunate events, but I do think that we are able to grow some varieties from Colorado. We are going to be testing this year more trials. We're planning trials for the tri-crop that we grew at different seeding rates and with a couple of different varieties. And we're also, we have a building manufacturer, Environmental Living Industries, Eli, that donated $50,000 to do trials at Texas Tech, and we're doing trials that are just straight fiber. So these are not a dual commodity crop, so they're just grown straight up for fiber. So those building manufacturers, which there's many that have come to us interested in purchasing, right, the herd in particular, which is the inner part of the stalk. And you know, a lot of them are willing to work with farmers. What's been interesting to us about the possibility of new end products, just like you were saying, Jared, you know, we have a possibility of creating hemp bioplastics or hemp biocomposites, you know, all of these different products. The farmer right now has all of the power, because if the farmer decides and they look at the economics of this and they plug it into their spreadsheet and they say, this doesn't compete. I can grow cotton. I know cotton. I can get insurance for cotton. I'm going to grow cotton. Then we aren't going to have a hemp industry. And I think 99% of the farmers in Texas are smart enough to think that through. You know, they're smart enough to look at the market to think, is it worth growing or not? And so in order for someone, a manufacturer who wants to purchase hemp fiber, in order for them to incentivize a cotton farmer, they're going to have to come up with a way that makes it worth their time and effort. And so what we've said to these manufacturers is offer, you know, a percentage of net profits out of the manufacturing. If you're going to take the hemp bast fiber and you're going to turn it into toilet paper, while the consumer still remembers they could get toilet paper, sure, this is a way that you can move the farmer closer to the consumer, so that you can tell the consumer not, only do you now know where your food is coming from, which is important to a lot of these people in the bigger cities. They want to know where their food's coming from. Well, now you can know where your single-use plastics are coming from, and your toilet paper's coming from, and your Kleenex, and all of these different types of products. So, yes, I agree. There's so many different products that can be made from it, but they're not being made from it now. And to get up to the scale without a farmer risking their livelihood is very important to us. That's at the forefront of all the conversations that we're having, when we're talking to people that, don't go contract 1,000 acres to grow this, put in an acre, because once you grow an acre, then next year you can have history and you can qualify for multi-peril insurance. So if you think you want to grow in 2022, put a little bit of seed in the ground in 2021, but don't expect necessarily to make money from it, And so, and especially, I've not spoken to a single processor or manufacturer that has a decent business plan that is willing to transport hemp over 100 miles. It economically does not make sense. And so that is one of the reasons why it is so attractive to the cotton farmers, is that this could be, can we as a co-op gin, can we put in processing right next to our gin for hemp? Is that something that we can diversify and do? And I think that those things, may be a possibility in a few years. We lack a lot of innovation right now to know what system's the best for processing, what genetic of fiber. So there's still just a lot of questions to be answered. Does that kind of help?
Yeah, absolutely. So, an elementary industry as we started, as this infrastructure gets built, and that's where you guys come together. And just in my experience, Justin, maybe you could add to this, within other states that I've been doing these shows at, Kansas, Nebraska, we don't have an association. In fact, I know Justin and I talked about this at McCook Farm and Ranch Expo. So it's good to see that you guys have an association coming together to get producers together. Tell us just briefly, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. What all, how does that process do? What do I do if I live outside of Henrietta over here and I want to become interested in the hemp? How do I get a hold of you guys? And then, what are some of the services that you're adding with that membership, or how can you help a producer out?
So basically, if you join the Texas Hemp Growers Association, what you are investing in is marketing and policy making. We are set up and created just like any other trade association. So the things that you expect from, the Cotton Growers Association or the Wheat Growers Association or the, Texas Cattle Feeders, those kind of projects that they're taking on, and that kind of voice in Austin and in DC, even at a federal level, those are the kind of things that you're going to be benefiting from. If you think you're interested in growing hemp at any point, then I would suggest that you connect with us at the booth. We're back here. We also do have a website, and it's txhempgrowersassociation.com. And you just need to look for the tractor logo so that you'll know that it's us. And we do have, monthly membership dues where people can join, and we have several business sponsors. Delta Ag is who we partnered with out of Colorado, and Kentucky. That's who we partnered with to put in the processing, and they are one of our primary sponsors. And so we need that support. And if you think that you're going to be interested in growing at any time for grain or for fiber or CBD, we do have a committee. So we have several committees for economic development, policy, and marketing development, and we do have one for boutique growers like Jared. So folks that are, concerned about what's happening. Like one of the things that's happening across Texas is there's now Texas-grown CBD being sold everywhere, and there's no way it's grown in Texas. So we do have a bill that's coming up, and that's one of the things we've asked the senator to add is, hey, would you give us some protection from this so that people know what they're getting, and so we do have some good things happening on the legislative side. So yeah, txhempgrowersassociation.com.
Perfect. Justin, give us how we get a hold of you here at the booth, and then maybe some of your other ways on the intranet.
Yeah, you can. We've got a booth here. Wild Ass. You'll see Wild Ass Soap Company. You'll see our donkey. And Wild Ass Hemp Farm is our little farm. And yeah, you can find us on Facebook at Wild Ass Soaps or at Wild Ass Hemp, and that's where we're at. And just like to add that's kind of what Tiller is talking about. We've got to create a lot of consumer demand because the farmers are smart. They if they're here today, that means they're keen, and they know what they can do to keep their family operations profitable and viable. And it's not going to isn't going to happen if we don't have a lot of consumer demand. So that's what we're trying to do with our little business is show people what we can do with as many of the different derivatives of the hemp crop as we can, and see how it can enhance our lives and maybe be better than some of the other competitors out there, but continue to grow the demand so that a venture capitalist or an association or somebody can come along and go, I can park some money there because it makes sense, not because it's a pie in the sky dream that somebody has, of making unlimited energy with no inputs or no emissions. I mean, it's kind of, it's not going to be pie in the sky if people can see that there are really valuable products that we can bring to market.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things about hemp is it does have a very good environmental story to tell. And a lot of times us as farmers, we're often on a completely different end for those kind of topics, but a lot of the market that is driving this, a lot of that is based on what the story that's behind hemp, on its carbon sequestration and those types of things. It's a soil remediator, so it can actually help with nematodes. So there are some good things, and interesting, it's a plant that you can get an environmentalist and a farmer on the same page. So that is one of the things that we have done is we've created a nonprofit to support the creation of genetics. It's called Hemp Genetics Accelerator. And we are about to release a crowdfunding campaign to support the development of genetics, and not just for Texas, but any other state that needs that, because we'd love to see the farmer be able to profit from the seed as well.
Absolutely. Regenerative farming techniques, organic type stuff, and you bring a good point up to something that the farmers and maybe the environmentalist people can come to the same page on, which is sometimes unique in agriculture and in legislation, it seems like. Good to have these great folks up here, Tillery and Justin, speaking here at the Wichita Falls Ranch, Farm, and Hemp Expo. We'll be back throughout the day with different interviews. Maybe we'll have these guys come up and talk tomorrow too. But I appreciate all of you guys tuning in and listening here at the show. All right, goodbye.